I gotta stop being lazy. Splatoon 3 is around the corner. It might be a big corner, but it is coming. So for now, I thought I'd make a Q&A video focused on topics relating to the upcoming Splatoon 3 game. And I was originally planning to make this one of our Q&A videos. I play Splatoon while answering questions, and in between each splat, I would answer a question. But there's over 100. There's nearly 200 questions, and I will not get 200 splats in one video. So then I'm like, okay, I'll just do it in Salmon Run. That was a miss. I should have been every time I saved someone. Oh my, no. Oh no! This is such a bad. How am I supposed to? So I figured Bridget. All right, we've got a lot of questions, so we need to get through them. First question by Dreamy Poyo: do you think DJ Octavio will side with us, and there will be a brand new villain for Splatoon 3, or maybe a returning character that's the villain? Do you also think that they might go more in depth about Grizzco as well? So there's a lot to unpack here. The first question: do I think DJ Octavio will side with us? I'm hoping so, and I think so. Because while Nintendo does like to stick to their formulas, they do also like to stay fresh. They did end up having DJ Octavio in the second game as the antagonist for the story mode, but then Octo Expansion gave me hopes that maybe they also like the idea of different enemies. I think the public don't like the idea of DJ Octavio being the villain again, because then it's just like, oh, come on, Nintendo, do something different. Because in the first two games, Octolings weren't playable. They were, underground. They don't have electricity to run themselves. So even though Octavio is and was a villain, we kind of sympathize with him because he's just trying to take care of his people. But now going into Splatoon 3, Inklings and Octolings seem to live harmoniously, so there would be no reason for DJ Octavio to be a villain, unless Chaos makes that harmony go away. But if I have to pick one or the other, I would say DJ Octavio will side with us, not going to be the main villain. So then that leaves us with who's going to be the villain. Will it be someone that we already know? Is it going to be someone new? I'm thinking it's going to be someone new. They made Tartar, introduced Octolings in Splatoon 2. I think they like adding new things. I'd be very shocked if they didn't give us a new villain or a new antagonist. Maybe they'll just give us Tartar as the villain because he comes back. But it's far away from Inkopolis, so I don't know. I'd say we get a new villain. And lastly, do you also think they may go more in-depth about Grizzco as well? Absolutely. Yeah, we've already heard that iconic Grizzco sound at the end of the last trailer. And there's even enough references, some I haven't even probably seen, that connected to Grizzco. They're absolutely going more into Grizzco. Iridescent Turtle: what do you think the new idols will be like personality-wise? Do you think one of them or both of them will be male, or do you think there will be two female idols? History tends to predict the future sometimes. They have given us two female idols, so it would make sense that they would just continue that formula if they know it works. Although I would really like to see them have a male or two males, or just mix up the formula a little bit. I do like the theory that the statues, there's a snake and a pig, and that could symbolize zodiac signs. As for their personality, to keep this condensed, you could really just look up snake sign zodiac or pig sign. I'm leaning towards that could be their personality. I really do like that theory. I hope that's the way they go. All right, next, Quinn Van or Shoot. I apologize if I said that wrong. Which Salmon Run replacement could work in a desert environment? Sharks were a popular idea, and it would be cool if they put them on sand ships like pirates. So me personally, I've never liked the idea of sharks being playable. I think because the game focuses on ink that's on the ground. Yes, salmon have what is it, the mucus? What are sharks? Is it... I don't want to know. But if I may reword your question, not so much what is going to be the Salmon Run replacement, but what is going to be our cooperative replacement. When you play Turf, Ranked, League, you're kind of fighting another team, but this is you versus PvE. I imagine if we assume that the lore is going to be focused on Grizzco Industries and going into that, they may give us a new PvE mode. How it relates to the desert, I'm not quite sure. I do really like the idea of pirates. I've always liked the idea of Splatoon relating to pirates or in space, and seeing that spaceship really makes me hopeful that there's going to be some anti-gravity or low gravity where I could swim on the ceiling. I don't know how you're gonna manage a camera, but good luck. After seeing Del Foncino, it is Inkopolis, and we're gonna be traveling from the Splatlands to Inkopolis using the train. So I want to throw out the possibility that maybe Salmon Run is gonna still be available in Inkopolis, but there could be a new PvE mode in Splatlands. With Little Buddy getting as popular as they are, I think it would be really cool to integrate that into the new PvE mode. I said this before, but some of the shots of Splatsville shows this temple. It kind of looks like a temple, and I kind of like this series where everyone that sided on Chaos is going to be in Splatsville, and everyone that sided with Order will be in Inkopolis. And because we see DJ Octavio and even Little Judd kind of next to each other in Chaos, I like the idea that maybe that temple is where DJ Octavio resides, because he seems like his aesthetic would match a temple. Maybe you walk into the temple just like you would Grizzco, and then you hook up with some kind of player versus enemy mode. But I think to make it different enough so that it's not just a copy of Salmon Run, instead of making it hordes of enemies that your team has to fight against, it could be maybe fighting larger enemies working together because it's going to be overwhelming to fight one singular big boss. And then by the end of it, you fight DJ Octavio again. Albeit new mechanics, new map, it wouldn't be just the exact same fight with DJ Octavio. But yeah, how it relates to the desert environment, your guess is as good as mine. In fact, your guess is pretty close to what I would say. Yeah, pirates. Pirates makes a lot of sense. I really like pirates. Nogami pirates. Pirates is the way to go, please. Fantastic. Why do I like your name? In the first Splatoon 3 trailer, we saw Little Buddy. I personally think that this could mean a co-op hero mode. What do you think Little Buddy is for? By the way, I love your video. I think the developers like trying out new mechanics, but I think it's fair to say in the Octo expansion, they really gave us an idea of what kind of cool stages they could do, what kind of puzzles they could make. That's really where Octo expansion focused. Now the developers are tasked with making a new hero mode in Splatoon 3 after hearing response from the community saying Octo expansion was the hero mode we needed. Hence Little Buddy, kind of a mechanic that allows you to have a companion with you, and as you're going through the hero mode, you chuck them at this this furry thing. I can't even remember what it was called. I should have watched the trailer before recording this. By that definition, there's really not much more to go by besides just a mechanic for the hero mode. But what I personally would love to see is they integrate that outside of the hero mode as well. After you're done the hero mode, you typically get a bunch of hero mode gear and weapons when you complete certain things. And maybe if you get 100,000%, then Little Buddy comes with you. We're not seeing Little Buddy outside of the hero mode, but I really do want to see it integrated outside. Just an idea of how that could happen. The victory animation or the defeat animation could be a little bit more interesting to have Little Buddy next to you. Everyone has their own Little Buddy with their own customizations, albeit just the hair maybe, but of course, the developers, it's their game. I'm excited to see what they do with Little Buddy. Oh no, I have one question. What makes you qualified to answer our Splatoon 3 questions? Well, I'm glad you asked. I actually have a bachelor's degree. I've been studying now for the past 6 years. I went to Inkopolis University, studied the art of going in and out of the ink very rapidly. It's not just squid bagging. It's an art. No, I'm kidding. I'm just some dumb guy on the internet that loves the game. Why are you even listening to me? Remix. My question is there going to be more customization? I'm saying this because we now have our own spawn point thingies and a Little Buddy. So yeah, revisiting what I said, I really like the idea of Little Buddy, part of the customization. That's a really good way to say it. But I think it's no mistake that the customization in Splatoon is one of its biggest selling points. There might be some differing opinions on that, but I made 2 videos, one on customization and one on combat. From where I'm sitting, it looks like players really like to customize in Splatoon. Like that's one of the biggest things because it feels like you're actually that character. It lets you put yourself into the game. So will the developers see that and lean into it and give us more customizations than what we've already seen? I hope so. Tentacle. What's the best Inkling and or Octoling hairstyle in Splatoon 3? My hair. But talking about new hairstyles, I really like the side braid, and I also like the one that has the dried tips. I think that's really cool. And it also seems to match the aesthetic of the game. Trin, how many toes do Octarians have? Well, it better be 8. But hold on, why is that even Ed Weezer? I got 3 if that's right. Number 1. Do you think Little Buddy's actually an enemy spy? I don't know, but something about his tooth seems suspicious. Why are we judging Little Buddy's tooth so hard? No, to answer your question, look at him. Does it look... I hope something's on the screen. Look at that. Oh, look at that face. Does that face look like it could be a spy? Okay, you might be onto something. Second question, do you think that Crusty Sean will be playable? No, because it just goes back to ink. What's Crusty Sean doing? Throwing shrimp everywhere? You trip on the shrimp and then, oh, I dropped the Rainmaker. But you do make a good point. We haven't seen Crusty Sean. I think it goes back to that Final Fest poster. We see Crusty Sean on the right side, which is Team Order, so maybe Crusty Sean is still in Inkopolis. It would make sense that we haven't seen him because we haven't seen Inkopolis in Splatoon 3. And lastly, well, we have customizable apartments. I think even from the developer's perspective, knowing that they follow us closely to see any feedback, they know very clearly that we would love apartments. And it doesn't seem too far-fetched knowing that they're also Animal Crossing developers. It makes me think back to Splatoon 1, where Octolings were supposed to be playable, but then Splatoon 2, they made it playable. So maybe in Splatoon 2, they saw that the need was there for apartments, but they didn't really lean into it. Going into Splatoon 3, maybe they'll give it a chance. The team is well known to tease us. Oh, where's Marina? There she is. So with the shots of Splatsville and the new map that we just saw, showing so many apartments in the background, I feel like they're teasing us. Does that mean that they're hinting they're gonna do it? Caitlin, do you think the campaign will have 2 separate storylines? One for Inkling and one for Octoling? I think there's going to be 2 separate storylines. One in the desert theme and then one in with the rocket and the snow theme. But I don't think it's going to be divided Inkling and Octoling. And while at first I'd think, yeah, it's probably not likely. Look at all the hero modes in the past. Octo expansion, you had to be an Octoling. Story mode, you had to be an Inkling. But I also look at it as it made more sense at the time and it wouldn't as much now. Splatoon 1, Inklings were only playable, so you would only be an Inkling. Splatoon 2, at first Inklings were only playable, so again, you can only be an Inkling, and they're not gonna reprogram it. I guess it's not worth it to add in Octolings as an option to the hero mode because you probably already played it. And it made so much sense to force you to be an Octoling because it's a story for Octolings. Marco Garcia, do you think the gameplay of the story mode is going to be like Splatoon 1 and 2 or more open world? The hardware hasn't changed. We're still on the Switch. If you watched the first trailer for Splatoon 3 and you're like, hey, that kind of looks like open world, yeah, don't worry, same. But I think it might be a stretch to assume that they can really get into an open world kind of concept on the same hardware. We would probably have to see a game on a newer console with more beefy specs to be able to even handle it. Salty Salmonling. When will the Salmonlings be available in Turf War? Pretending to be an Octarian is very time consuming in the mornings. Follow-up question, how to swim faster in water? It takes way too long to get back to spawn after drowning. I mean, the only right answer here is that Salmonlings need their own Turf War. Would it be Mucus War? No, I guess it would still be Turf, wouldn't it? Oh, it just crossed my mind. What if in Splatsville you get to play as the salmons that fight against the players in Salmon Run in Inkopolis? Maybe you could be salmonids instead, fighting against other players. I'm sure you would love that, being a salmonling yourself. And when it comes to swimming faster in water, I'm afraid I can't answer that. I'm an Inkling. When I try to, I just blow up. Yup. Will you continue to make videos about Pearl and Marina or the new idols we are given in Splatoon 3? I take a lot of pride and enjoyment making my own lore on the channel. I think it's best to assume that the series that I was kind of doing with Pearl and Marina is very similar to Bridget in a way, where I've kind of done everything that I want to do, but that's not going to stop me from integrating Pearl and Marina into other content. And if there are new idols, I can't imagine not integrating them because I'm going to be excited to dive into their personalities and make them a part of whatever lore that I come up with. Puppy Tough, the first part of the question we already went over, but the second part, could this be the last installment for the franchise with all of the revolutionary speculations and ideas? I hope not, but I don't think so either. Splatoon as a series is doing extremely well. It competes with some of the games that have been iconic for many years, like Mario Kart, Smash, and I think it's only inevitable that Nintendo's going to make a new console that's going to succeed the Switch. So with better graphic fidelity, of course they would want to make a sequel that would utilize the new hardware. The game has so much more potential to be more beautiful than it is because there's a lot of liquid mechanics. But that being said, I don't really think about future games after Splatoon 3 because I haven't even gotten Splatoon 3 yet. Pink Pearls, question. In Splatoon 3, we caught a glimpse of the possibility of being able to throw Little Buddy. Thoughts? Fears? Yeah, I fear that he's gonna hurt himself. I'm just joking. Look how happy he is when you throw it. I touched on this earlier, but to recap, I'm kind of scared that they're gonna integrate it too much into the online part of the game. I think, and I'm very hopeful that it just stays in hero mode. Can you imagine playing Clam Blitz and you go to throw a clam and you accidentally throw Little Buddy into the net? Cherry Crusader, do you think we will get to see more diverse species in story modes like those that are shown in the Deep Sea Metro? Yes, absolutely. It really goes to show how little I know about sea creatures, but the developers seem to keep on impressing us with how many kind of integrations to the sea, underwater creatures. I mean, if you think about it, we got mammalians. Hero, what's your new favorite special that they announced in the trailers? And do you have any ideas on a cool new ranked modes that they might introduce? They changed Inkzuka's formula. Fair enough. I really did like Inkzuka in Splatoon 1. Say what you want about it. I just had fun playing it. Going into Splatoon 3, I really hope that they didn't ruin it for me. I really want to love the Inkzuka. The crab's kind of cool, but given that fear I said with the Inkzuka, I'm really liking that new ninja grapple hook that we're seeing. So if I have to take a hunch, I'm probably gonna like that one the most. As for new modes, of course, we had that leak where there was a 8-ball potentially going to be integrated. This rocket mode that you shoot something and it goes up. I don't know how fully fleshed out those modes are. Maybe they left them out for a good reason. But it also kind of makes me think back at Octolings being almost playable in Splatoon 1. So while I'm not sure what the mode would be, I would find it very strange if they didn't give us a new ranked mode. Part of the excitement while playing Splatoon was that ranked modes would slowly become available. Rainmaker wasn't available until much later on. And as you said, Splatoon 2, Clam Blitz. Although I think it's an interesting comparison. Splatoon 1, a lot of people didn't like Rainmaker. Going into Splatoon 2, a lot of people don't seem to like Clam Blitz. So whatever the new mode is in Splatoon 3, it could be Destiny that no one's gonna like it. Syntanix, I love your name. When Splatoon 3 comes out, which weapon are you gonna main? I'll main the bow and the chargers 100%. I will absolutely dive so much time into the bow. It looks fun, except for that sideways movement. It's like slanted. It looks weird. I'd really like to see them introduce a boomerang or something. Like, I would be all over that. But I don't think I can really say until I start playing the game. I was all over rollers in Splatoon 1. In Splatoon 2, I wasn't really a big fan of rollers. Can't tell you what they did differently, but there was a difference, and it didn't feel as fun. Katarina, do you think that there will be a new expansion in Splatoon 3? Also, say hi to Bridget for me. Bridget! Katarina said hi. She said hi back. Of course, I would love to get everything that they're showing us bundled into one game, one price. But if I speak on my gut feeling, it seems like we're getting 2 story modes, one based on chaos and one based on order. Chaos side of things will be bundled into the game, and then they'll make another $20 DLC that will cover the other story mode. Pause up. Will there be a space story mode? I saw the big spaceship at the end, so will we end up in space? I would love that. It's very clear that that whole scene is referencing Mr. Grizz, and specifically the last map that we got for Salmon Run, Arc Polaris, had bear warnings, had a spaceship upside down in the background, the Sunken Scrolls reference throwing a disc into space. So while part of me wants to say, oh, this is pointing to a story mode based in space, or we're going to be going to space in Splatoon, I don't know. I don't want to set my expectations too high. Darklit, do you think that we'll get new weapons and maps in Splatoon 3? And do you think DJ Octavio will turn good in story mode? Yes, we've already seen some new weapons and new maps that are coming to Splatoon 3. So I think it's safe to assume we're going to be getting those and possibly more. And like I said earlier, I would love to see DJ Octavio not be the villain this time, and we'll see. I'm gonna be the hero. Do you think we will encounter new creatures for the DLC? Or will it just be the same old stuff? Yeah, well, we already got Mammalinians. That's technically a new creature. Outside of that, I think we may encounter more species that will match the theme of the Splatlands or Mammalinians. I think it'll just be like the Octo expansion, where you get to see these creatures on the subway. You can't really interact with them, but it really fills out the world and makes it more real when we get to see these creatures just kind of going about their day. Deborah, do you think there will be a meta or anything of the sort in Splatoon 3? Also, do you think the specials and other weapons will be slightly and subtly unbalanced, biased, or do you think Nintendo will do a good job of balancing the weapons, playstyles, and specials, etc.? So to answer your first question, yes, absolutely. I think there will be a meta. There's always going to be a meta in a competitive game. People are going to figure out what works, and that's going to be the meta, and it'll continue to develop. In terms of balancing, I think it'll work out. If it's not me having faith in the people that take this game competitively, letting Nintendo know what is working and not working, it's faith in the developers paying attention, learning from the previous games, and making this game as balanced as they can be. Naga, someone realized that the final scene in the letter change may have something symbolic related to humans since it changes from Inkling language to English. Really? Interesting. I mean, it's no surprise. The game acknowledges the human race, and we see a lot of references to humans, their culture, their language. I'm not really surprised, but maybe they are hinting at something I'm not aware. Tabby Chew, I'll give you a prompt instead. Give me some headcanon ideas about the story if Grizz turns out to be a bad guy. Okay, first off, I don't think Grizz will be bad, but Big Bad Bear Grizz wants to take over the world, and to do so has to go into space, but needs to use the rocket to go into space. But how do you power the rocket? How do you power the rocket? With eggs? Mr. Grizz does communicate in Splatoon 2 through a radio, and up until this point, I've always thought that maybe that was anonymity. Other people think it could be pre-recorded, but what if it's because Mr. Grizz isn't on the planet? Mr. Grizz wants to send the spaceship into space so that they can come back down and be the leader of the Mammalinians. Scary evil, Mr. Grizz. Fussy boy, you think Marie, Callie, and Captain Cuttlefish will be controlled by the new villain in the story of Splatoon 3? I think if there is any mind controlling in Splatoon 3, it would be that furry Mammalinian stuff that we're seeing, because that apparently just makes you completely immobile. So in a way, it's kind of the same, but outside of that, if I had to guess, no. I think they're kind of done with brainwashing. Octogamer, do you think the way we enter levels will be by entering kettles in Splatoon 1 and 2? Yes, I do think so. In the hero modes, we enter with kettles. With online matches, we enter with some boiling machine. Similar to that, we're entering Splatoon 3 matches with an espresso machine. The only exception to this was the Octo expansion, where we entered via the train. So anything that melts or boils, or, you know, coffee machines, espresso, I wouldn't be very surprised. If they take away from that formula too much, that would be shocking. Sexy Train Wreck. When new Agent 3 goes into fuzzy ink, do they become furry? This is really good trivia. Yes, they do. But the real question is, do they become a furry? Or are they still a slimy? I don't think it's right that I answer that. Do you guys become a furry if you become furry in Moonkeeper? How many times do you think you'll be falling off that one stage in the trailer? Even without knowing what stage you're referring to? Yes is the answer. I'm so bad at video games. Simple misdirection. Will multiplayer be as good as a trash can? That would be a step up from dumpster fire. While I do agree a trash can is a step up from dumpster fire, I'm not sure multiplayer will be as good as a trash can. Maybe if we meet in the middle and go with recycling bin, God forbid is compost. Terry saying, how do you think Inklings will get their sound effects if there's no gender choice during the character customization? I don't think it will really affect the sound effects. With Nintendo excluding the label gender and just making it style, I think they want to leave it up to interpretation. You're still going to hear a bunch of variety when it comes to voices. Maybe you pick style 1 and it sounds like a male Octoling. Does that mean that you picked the male Octoling? octoling for yourself? Yes, sure. But maybe some other inkling wants the voice that's commonly associated with female inklings, but doesn't want to have to identify as a female. I think it allows everyone to interpret it as they want, and everyone can enjoy the game a little bit more. Evelyn, have you any idea what hairstyle you'll use in Splatoon 3? I'm trying to decide, and it's so hard. I'm a pretty simple guy. I really like the hairstyle that I've had. It's become iconic for me. So with that hairstyle being available, I'm definitely going to snatch it up and use that. But I feel your pain. Good luck trying to decide. And I'm sure whatever one you choose is going to look great. Super Aiden the Agent. Whoa. A real agent? What companies from Splatoon 1 and 2 might still exist in Splatoon 3? Well, unless one of these brands become banned like the specials did in Splatoon 2, I would think that we're going to see all the brands returning in Splatoon 3 and maybe even some additional ones. And I sure as hecky hope that Zink comes back because that's my clothes. And lastly, the Red Fox. Do you think we'll be getting DLC for Splatoon 2? And do you think it's likely that we'll be getting a new species to play with? Just want to see your opinion. My opinion, we're not really getting anything else for Splatoon 2. But I would absolutely love the idea of Splatoon 3 giving you something just because of your save file for Splatoon 2. Unlike Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2 that were on different consoles, Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 are on the same console. So maybe you launch into Splatoon 3 and your ranked mode, your power level, gets carried over and you start your ranked mode like right at that point. Or even something as subtle as like some dialogue that comes up. To put it simply, I really like the idea of Splatoon 3 maybe utilizing the save file. But that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on all these questions. I found them all very interesting and I get more excited the more we talk about it. There's still a lot of questions from you guys that I didn't read, and I apologize if I didn't get to yours. Feel free to have some discussions in the comment section about this stuff. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you later. Surprise? No. Whoa! You don't have your splashdown. What do you do now? Oh my god. Why'd I even do this? You're welcome. Swedish bug. What is a likeliness there?